The world fell ill, overrun by a plague called monsters, but in time, the era of universal awakening arrived and gave birth to the so-called professionals, warriors with extraordinary powers who fought the creatures and took back the lost lands, and through their great deeds, they became humanity's heroes after a long and brutal war against the monsters. After ages of conflict, humanity finally prepared for the ultimate battle against the supreme monster, Eighth, and for this deadly mission, the strongest team of professionals the world had ever seen was assembled, with everyone confident in victory because they had the strongest of all on their side, the protagonist, Gwen. But no one expected that the hero would end up betrayed by his own teammates, and a blonde man with a scar on his face confronted Gwen, finding the protagonist's shocked expression completely natural, explaining that the professional's powers only awakened with the appearance of the monsters and that defeating Eighth was a risk, and standing over the fallen and injured Gwen, the blonde man said that by betraying him, they were securing their own future. The protagonist then asked the other professionals if they all agreed with that treacherous decision, and the serious faces of his former companions confirmed that everyone was in on the plan to get rid of him, and with his eyes glowing red, Gwen finally understood the full depth of the betrayal he had suffered. The blonde man and the other traitors gathered, and he confirmed that the idea to eliminate the hero was never his alone, explaining that keeping Eighth alive ensured the professionals' powers wouldn't disappear and that they would remain at the top, and Gwen was accused of being too strong and too obsessed with vanquishing the monsters, making him wonder if his dream had just been foolishness all along. In his final moments, the protagonist reflected on how, deep down, he had always been completely alone, remembering his childhood in the countryside where his adoptive parents, his only real family, had passed away long ago, and then he recalled the day his biological father, Gingfen, a powerful man, found him and took him away, and upon being brought to the Gu family's home, he was treated like trash by his new family, including his half-brother. Even with all the difficulties and contempt, Gwen trained hard to endure everything and grow stronger, dedicating himself so much that he even helped his half-brother become a top-tier professional and handed over his own guilt to him, and with a bitter smile, he realized that his dedication to getting stronger was, ironically, the very cause of his own downfall. His half-brother taunted him, saying his obsession with avenging his adoptive parents would lead him to join them, revealing he was always disgusted that a country boy like Gwen dared to be his older brother, and with hate in his eyes, the half-brother told the protagonist to rest in peace and attacked him with his sword, and in a swift and brutal move, the blonde man delivered the final strike against Gwen, the blow piercing his body as his eyes widened from the pain and shock of the fatal. His vision blurred and he could barely believe he was being taken down by his own allies, but to everyone's horror, the monster Eighth rose again, recovering its strength and spreading panic, and Eighth mocked the foolishness of humans while the traitors, now in despair, begged for Gwen's help. Fallen on the ground, the protagonist bitterly realized that his mission to wipe out the monsters wasn't over yet, but his body had reached its limit and he had no strength left to stand, and the creature revealed it was never the final boss and that there were countless other far grander monsters out there. With his body completely battered, Gwen felt that his life was unfortunately coming to an end, but in a desperate last act, he used Azatha's heart, an item with mysterious power over time, and using the heart's power, the young man tried to escape through time, leaving the creatures surprised by his boldness, and he swore with all his soul that if he got another chance, he would fiercely defeat everyone in his path. His consciousness traveled to the past, to the day of the ceremony where he had failed to become a professional, and with his eyes wide open, young Gwen stared at the result of the awakening ceremony, shocked by his failure, but suddenly he found himself in a younger body in a familiar place, trying to understand what had happened, and slowly it began to dawn on him that he had truly returned to a crucial moment in his past. He was in the Gu family mansion and understood he had been reborn, likely thanks to the power of the demon's heart, and at that moment, a familiar authoritative voice ordered him, the ungrateful son, to kneel immediately, the order coming from his father, Gingfang, who harshly scolded him for not awakening a class at school. Gwen remembered that day perfectly when he failed and was humiliated, seen as a burden by everyone, but something different happened and a system window appeared in front of him, initiating the class awakening, and a warning screen popped up informing him that different choices would lead to entirely different career paths. Gwen was surprised because in his past life, it had taken him 1 year to awaken, but now everything was happening ahead of schedule, and next, a new notification informed him that upon completing the awakening task, he would receive a beginner's gift pack, and the system then presented 3 career options: Sacred Swordsman, Sacred Shield Bearer, or Mysterious Shadow Path. The young man realized he could change his class and that these 3 options never existed in his previous life, and he reflected on the choices, discarding the idea of apologizing or bearing more responsibilities since he had already suffered enough. His father yelled that he couldn't discipline him just because he stayed silent and ordered him to kneel in the courtyard as punishment, but this time, Gwen confronted him, saying he never fulfilled his duty as a father after abandoning him for 18 years, and Gingfang became furious at his son's boldness and asked how he dared to compare himself to his brother. Gwen replied that in his father's heart, the true son was always the genius Gusi, who awakened as a dragon knight, and at that moment his stepmother, Kunyan, stepped in and demanded that he kneel and apologize to his father right away, but with a cold look, the protagonist stared at her and asked what right she had to give him orders, being just a concubine. The woman was shocked and stepped back, surprised by Gwen's defiant attitude and harsh words, and the boy's father unleashed a powerful aura and accused him of disobeying and disrespecting his elders, acting like a thug, and Gwen felt the heavy pressure from his father, a powerful warrior from the north, weighing on his shoulders. Gingfang stepped forward and ordered his son to kneel once more, promising to forgive his arrogant words if he obeyed, and under the immense force, the young man's body was pressed down, almost forcing him to his knees against his will, but even under the enormous pressure, he gathered his strength and replied with a defiant smile that his father could keep dreaming. The man stared at his son in silence, perhaps surprised by the incredible determination he was showing, and then he withdrew his pressure and said the boy had guts and that he would forgive him if he just admitted his mistake, but with a tired sigh, Gwen ironically asked himself if he should take the blame one more time like he always did in the past. And then he stood up and declared he was just a commoner from the countryside unworthy of the noble Gu family and that he was cutting all ties. As the young man turned and walked away, his father called him trash and yelled at him to get out, pretending he never had a son like him, and in a fit of rage, Gingfang ordered the butler to immediately remove Gwen's name from the family genealogy, but the butler respectfully informed him that young Master Gwen's name was never there to begin with. Far from the mansion, Gwen received a notification that he had completed the task and selected the shadow path, ready to grow stronger, and right after, another warning screen popped up, congratulating the protagonist for finally awakening the summoner class, while the system also confirmed the activation of his super rare rank talent, the Darkness-born Summoner, and the acquisition of a new skill. He was surprised to have become a summoner, a class that required a lot of resources early on, but possessing the rare super rare rank, and in the Shangxia Kingdom, talents are ranked from S to E, so a super rare rank was something completely unheard of and mysterious to him. After completing the awakening task, the system rewarded him with his first summoned beast, a bloodthirsty bat, and the task reward screen appeared again, highlighting the prize he had just received for his bold choice, and with a summoning ritual, dark energy manifested and the system confirmed he had successfully signed the contract. A small harmless bat with common aptitude appeared in his hand, featuring lifesteal and sonic attack talents, and Gwen was a bit disappointed to see his first servant was so weak even for beginner dungeons, but determined to test his new talent, he activated the special skill that could convert normal creatures into shadow beings, and using his single charge of the skill, the shadow bloodline was transferred to the small bat through a bite, and powerful energy surrounded the tiny creature as a system notification confirmed the summoned beast had evolved. The evolution was complete, transforming the common bloodthirsty bat into an epic creature named Dagula, and Gwen was shocked to realize his talent made the creature skip 3 rarity levels, going directly from common to epic, and to his total surprise, the evolved creature hovered in the air before the moon, now with a humanoid form and demon wings. And Gwen remembered that not even the strongest summoner from his past life had obtained a humanoid beast so early on. Dagula's status screen confirmed her epic aptitude, extremely high attributes, and a 10-point bonus to all of Gwen's stats, and the beautiful creature with white hair and red eyes landed gracefully and asked with a soft voice if he was her master, Then with a sharp smile baring her fangs, she confessed that she truly wished to taste her new master's fresh life force. Sometime later, the protagonist traveled on a high-speed train, heading to his next important destination, and inside the train, he opened his own status window to analyze the changes after his class awakening, noting that his stats were almost 3 times higher than those of a normal person, an incredible bonus from his talent. And the young man also reflected on how his new summoned beast seemed quite different from what he knew, with Dagula having her own personality and a unique craving for life force, meaning she could fight autonomously. Sitting on the train, Gwen made a gesture and calmly ordered Dagula, who was exploring the car, to return to him, and the creature turned back into a small bat and landed on his shoulder, already hungry for experience, and with his new power and mighty creature, he was very eager for the first evaluation. After his talent's awakening, the station sound system announced the arrival of the train from Gubia City to Lynching City, and Gwen stepped off with confidence and walked through the station, announcing to himself that he was back at his old high school, the place he was heading to being the novice dungeon training ground of Lynching's No. 1 high school. There, a large group of students was gathered in a courtyard waiting for instructions for the big day, and a teacher named Jang Sangu addressed the students, saying that today would be their first real combat experience, explaining that the novice dungeon was only open for 10 days a year for newly awakened students below level 10, and to reassure everyone. The teacher said the risk factor was low but the rewards were slightly higher than normal. Teacher Jang explained that everyone needed to buy a teleportation scroll for safety for only 200 gold coins, and after giving the instructions, she noticed not everyone was present and asked if anyone had seen young Gwen, with one student replying that he hadn't returned yet and another mocking him, saying he must have failed to awaken and was stuck in the countryside. The boy named Lin Yun got annoyed by the teasing, but at that moment, Gwen's voice spoke up, apologizing for being late, and the other students were surprised he showed up and commented that he wasn't afraid of embarrassing himself, but ignoring the comments, the protagonist approached the teacher, who asked which class he had managed to awaken, and he replied that he awakened as a summoner, which greatly surprised the teacher because of the young man's unusual choice. The girls around them whispered that Gwen looked more handsome, but he was focused on his own plans for the future, while the other students made fun of him, saying the summoner class was for the rich and that he had no way to progress as a commoner, and Jang Sangwa told everyone to quiet down and reminded them that class was just one aspect since personal performance was also very important. She then advised Gwen to choose good teammates and take a scroll, but he replied that he didn't need the safety item, and the teacher was shocked and insisted, explaining that the school did not allow accidents and that she needed to notify his parents about this decision, but Gwen's silence left her speechless and she looked at him with an expression of surprise and concern. With a sad look, she began to think that his family must be having financial difficulties and that he was a pitiful child, and concerned for the student's safety, the teacher offered to pay for the item, but Gwen calmly interrupted her, and with a confident smile, he explained that with the strength he possessed, there was no need to spend money on that item. She thought that young people his age loved to show off, while the other students mocked him for being a broke summoner, but the confident aura radiating from Gwen didn't seem to be just an attempt to show off, but something real. Near the dungeon entrance, several professionals gathered to form groups and trade items before going in, and in the middle of the crowd, someone pointed at Gwen and identified him as a summoner, with everyone assuming he must be from a wealthy family, but they soon recognized him as Gwen, a country boy, and mocked him for playing such an expensive and useless class, but the protagonist ignored the remarks, thinking he needed a party of at least 5 people to activate the secret dungeon. At that moment, his childhood friend, Lin Yuan, approached and asked where he had been for the past month, and without giving many details, Gwen replied briefly that he was just sorting out some personal matters, and his friend complained about his coldness and said he was worried, making the protagonist wonder if they were really that close, and then Lin Yuan handed him a teleportation scroll, explaining the teacher Jang had paid for it out of her own pocket. The young man took the item and thought that the teacher was very kind to him and that one day he would find a way to return the favor, promising himself that in this new life, he would cherish those who treated him well and make all the traders pay for what they did, and his friend then questioned how he intended to raise a summoned beast if he couldn't even buy a simple scroll, but the protagonist explained he had no choice and asked why Lin Yuan, being a swordsman, hadn't entered the dungeon yet, with the friend replying that he didn't have good gear and mentioning Manhwa, the elite class monitor who had entered with rare armor. Hearing the name, Gwen remembered that one of the traders from his past life was exactly a member of Lin Qing's family, and Lin Yuan showed a large sword and revealed he traded his safety scroll for it, betting everything on this chance. And thinking of a way to complete the party, Gwen surprised his friend by asking if he wanted to be carried through the dungeon, with Lin Yuan saying his leader was Wen Hoi and that he had paid 50,000 to join, so adding one more person shouldn't be an issue. His friend got excited about the idea and guaranteed that if the leader didn't accept Gwen into the team, he would leave the group right away, but a notification popped up informing him that Luwahi not only rejected the request but also kicked Lin Yuan out of the party, and Gwen then told him not to worry and told him to announce that his summoner would carry 4 people to a triple S rank. Lin Yuan was in disbelief since a triple S rating could guarantee direct admission into the Capital Academy, but with a confident smile, the protagonist simply asked whether his friend believed in him or not, and after a moment of hesitation, Lin Yuan took a deep breath and decided to trust his friend at least one time, then filled his lungs with air and got ready to make the most important announcement of his life to the surrounding crowd, shouting in a loud voice that a divine summoner was taking 4 people to get a triple S rating in the dungeon. The people around them became confused and skeptical, wondering since when Lin Qing City had such a genius, and after finding out it was a commoner summoner, everyone started laughing, saying it was a hilarious joke, but Gwen told his friend to ignore the fools, as professional matters should be handled by real professionals, and Lin Yuan felt frustrated about having to pay to be carried but understood it was the only way to find a good team. Meanwhile, 2 girls, the warrior Lin Qing and the assassin Swan, considered joining the team because it was free, and the 2 of them decided to take the risk and approached Gwen's group, catching the attention of the protagonist and his friend, agreeing to bet on the team since in the worst-case scenario, they had a teleportation scroll to escape, and unexpectedly, another boy nearby heard the conversation and told the group to count him in as well, the new member being Wu Zi, a level 1 fighter who looked quite strong and confident. Lin Yuan got excited about adding the class monitor, who said he was only there to make up the numbers, but Wu Yi demanded an extra payment, leaving Lin Yuan desperate since they wouldn't make any profit, but Gwen agreed to the conditions and stated that he would be the leader and would choose the dungeon, sending invites to everyone, and with a smirk, the protagonist thought that his new teammate's perspective on difficulty was very narrow. All 4 members accepted the invite and the party was officially formed to enter the novice dungeon, and the protagonist then approached a stone structure and started doing something that left everyone confused, with blue energy wrapping around the stones which began to float in the air and shatter into multiple pieces, and before everyone's amazed eyes, a strange red portal with a very dangerous aura appeared in its place, and with a confident smile, he thought that the secret dungeon, which could be opened with a specific method, was still there. The team went into full panic mode, not understanding why the portal was red and what was going on there, but Gwen, the group's leader, told everyone to stop talking and just follow him since they had already agreed to the terms, and the red portal pulsed with sinister energy, emitting a frightening sound while waiting for the group to enter, and without being able to react, all 5 team members were forcibly pulled inside the mysterious portal. Outside, everyone was confused and a student explained that the commoner summoner had opened a new portal and taken everyone with him, and the dean of students approached and stared at the portal in astonishment, recognizing the dangerous red color and panicking, revealing that it was a special hidden portal with a 99% fatality rate for novices. The group was transported inside a dark ancient dungeon, and the system informed them they had entered the temple ruins, and Wu Yi, furious, grabbed Gwen and accused him of dragging them into a hidden dungeon without knowing anything about its difficulty, but with a swift move, the protagonist caught the fighter's hand and reminded him that they agreed he would make the choices. And the class monitor was shocked because even though he was a fighter focused on physical strength, he was easily restrained by Gwen. The other team members panicked as they hadn't studied the monsters of that place and had no way to prepare, and Wu Yi called him crazy and said he wanted out, but Gwen warned him that the choice was his, to trust him or be a coward, and seeing his friend's fear, the protagonist offered his own teleportation scroll to Lin Yuan as a guarantee, and now with all 4 of them having an escape route, they felt a bit safer to at least try their luck. One of the group members asked how he found the dungeon, and Gwen replied that it was just a hunch, but in his mind, he remembered seeing on the news in his past life that Anovas had accidentally opened this portal, and at that time, the portal attracted many adventurers, but in the end only one elite team managed to conquer the place, and as they explored the temple, the team hoped the difficulty was normal and that they could survive the challenge. Going deeper into the temple, the team came across a spooky sight of several sarcophagi holding fallen armored warriors, and suddenly the red eyes of one of the armored warriors lit up, indicating he was about to awaken from his slumber, and with a serious look, Gwen warned everyone that the dungeon monsters were finally starting to manifest, with an army of level 2 creatures called Fallen Guards rising and charging at the group of intruders. The team panicked upon seeing there were 10 level 2 monsters, a difficulty that seemed to be on the infernal tier, but the protagonist took control and said he would handle the monsters, asking no one to interfere or steal the loot, and with a smirk, Gwen summoned his tiny creature, calling the little bat out to play for a bit, and his companions couldn't believe their eyes and thought he was joking by trying to fight with such a small bat. But with a simple order to strike, the little bat transformed into an imposing figure and charged into battle, with the creature Dagula in her humanoid form facing one of the guards and extending her sharp claws for combat, and with incredible speed, she bit the armored monster's neck, showing her true vampiric nature, and the guard didn't have the slightest chance to fight back and was completely defeated, shattering into several pieces. In the blink of an eye, Dagula defeated all the enemies and multiple experience notifications popped up on the party screen, and the team's jaws dropped at the scene while Wuya realized the creature was actually an epic tier summoned beast, unable to believe the weakest summoner class could have an epic beast, something extremely rare in the Empire. Everyone calculated the damage was at least 3,000 and that not even Luwahi could defeat 10 monsters at once, and Lin Yuan realized that in just a few days, Gwen had become incredibly strong, meaning they had a true leader, and the protagonist smiled, satisfied to see that an epic beast could easily wipe out monsters of the same level with no trouble. A status window confirmed Gwen had leveled up to level 2, and his summoned beast was now stronger as well, and he gained one more use of the shadow bloodline, wondering what that bloodline awakening on his screen could be, while the team watched without understanding, and Wuer commented that the creature was already strong and still had room to evolve even further. A system notification confirmed that the bloodline awakening of the beast, now named Dracula, was a total success, her stats nearly doubling as she gained a new talent, and Gwen projected they could easily reach level 6, and with the creature floating in its shadow form, the protagonist asked with an air of superiority if anyone still wanted to quit, and all 4 team members, now absolutely terrified, shook their heads no with nervous smiles, and with everyone finally on the same page, Gwen led the group with a confident smile and they continued moving forward. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, the mysterious and dangerous red portal kept pulsing with energy, and the teachers and the dean wondered why no one had come out yet even with the teleportation scrolls they possessed, with teacher Jang Samoa feeling guilty and wondering how she would explain it to the students' parents if an accident happened. But suddenly a progress bar appeared over the portal and everyone was shocked to see they were clearing the dungeon, with the screen showing that the current dungeon clearing progress was already at 10% to everyone's surprise. The dean was stunned to learn they were in a nightmare difficulty dungeon and asked for the students' files, and upon seeing the names, the man assumed the monitor Wu was leading and praised him for carrying a summoner with him, but the teacher remembered the captain was Gwen and the confidence he had shown earlier began to make more sense. Inside the dungeon, the team was attacked by a black mist deacon, and Wuyer yelled for help as he couldn't hold out anymore, but Gwen watched them from afar and calmly scolded them, reminding them he had told them not to make any moves, and his companions defended themselves, saying they couldn't just return empty-handed after coming in there, and little Saran, amidst tears of despair, screamed for her big brother Gwen to save them as fast as possible. The protagonist decided to step in so he wouldn't lose points on his rating, but his creature Dracula seemed to be having fun, and with a wave of his hand, the young summoner released a wave of red energy and tiny shadow bats at the enemies, and with his hands wrapped in red energy, the protagonist got ready to show his true combat strength, his eyes glowing with an intense red light and a powerful aura radiating from his entire body. He charged at high speed, leaving a trail of energy on the ground, preparing to strike the monster and activating his creature's skill called Crimson Banquet, landing a powerful blow on the enemy while his creature hunted and defeated the opponents. And he received feedback of their stats, growing stronger and stronger, and the moment he called his summon back, all the power gathered was transferred straight to him, with the stat gains returning to the summoner and drastically boosting his combat capabilities for a while. After 2 of Dracula's evolutions, his own melee stats had also become incredibly powerful, and with his new powers, his close combat ability was now strong enough to rival warrior classes, and the fighter Wuzier was shocked to realize that the summoner Gwen's strength was even greater than his own. After the intense battle and the monster's defeat, a system notification confirmed that player Gwen had leveled up, reaching level 3, and his summoned beast Dracula also leveling up alongside him, dissipating the red energy, and a new notification informed him that he gained 1 more use of the Shadow Bloodline, which could transform or awaken creatures. And Gwen realized he had a chance to earn 1 Shadow Bloodline with every level and decided to save it for his next summon. Before the boss battle, he gave his companions the chance to use their teleportation scrolls and leave if they were afraid, but everyone denied it vehemently, saying that whoever left now would be a coward and that they wanted to help in the final fight. And now fully confident in their leader's power, the 5-member team ventured into the depths of the dungeon. Wuzier asked if Gwen would pick the infernal difficulty next time, and he confirmed that was the next target, and the fighter then with a nervous smile asked if he could be carried by him in the next dungeon too, but Gwen explained that an infernal level dungeon was extremely dangerous and the slightest mistake could be fatal for everyone, and Wuzier shouted that he wasn't afraid, but Gwen explained it wasn't the point, leaving the fighter even more confused, and with a smirk, the protagonist simply replied that to tag along, his classmate would have to pay extra. The class monitor was completely stunned, wearing a confused and comical expression at the unexpected proposal, and Gwen revealed the price, 100,000 per person, thinking to himself that he needed money to upgrade his stats with crystals, and the fighter was shocked by the amount. But Lin Qing surprisingly said it wasn't expensive and that she would go with them anyway, with the warrior explaining that a triple S rating guaranteed bonus points on the academy exams, making the investment totally worth it. Seeing the logic, Wuzier also agreed to participate, promising to transfer the money as soon as they exited the dungeon, and the protagonist then warned them seriously, making it clear he wouldn't carry anyone who dragged down the group's performance. And in his thoughts, Gwen reinforced the mission's importance since he needed a crucial item that the dungeon boss possessed. Finally, the group arrived at a large pyramid-shaped structure, and the leader announced that the big boss was there, and at that moment, a massive amount of dust and shadow energy began to gather in the center of the arena, forming a creature, and a level 7 monster in a black cloak appeared before them as the system identified it as the boss, the Black Cloak Deacon. The system window pops and instantly everyone's blood runs cold because foreign being Black Robe Deacon level 10 with HP question marks and stats that are absolutely cracked. Strength BB, Agility B, Constitution BB, Spirit A, and this thing has 3 skills including Ash Mist Curse, Damage Transfer, and Pitch Black Darkness Invasion plus a passive that summons fallen guards. And Wuzier is already in full panic mode screaming that this boss is at least 3 times stronger than a level 5 monster. And its strength exceeds twice their combined power and they know nothing about its combat mechanics so they should flee while they still can, but Gu Chen is standing there with his hands in his pockets looking like he's waiting in line for coffee because he remembers from news in his past life that the Black Robe Deacon can appear as a boss and first clear means that treasure chest, so running was never on the table. The boss activates Ash Mist Curse and suddenly this thick gray fog is everywhere, lasting 10 whole minutes, blocking vision while giving stealth to all allied monsters and anyone breathing it gets hit with exhaustion that drains physical ability, and the whole party is shouting that it's too late to run now because the boss already started his attack and they're all asking what this skill is and if it's poisonous. But Gu Chen just calmly tells them the real danger isn't the mist itself and then he summons his bat Dagula right there, and Lin Yuan is losing his mind asking what's happening while Gu Chen explains these are the Black Robe Deacon's guards using the mist to hide and carry out assassination missions, so they're basically blind now, but the mist doesn't affect summon monsters and Dagula has unique sonar vision so she's about to blaze a trail for them. And while the group is scrambling and terrified, he just tells them to stay close and not move randomly or he won't be able to save them because this boss is a shadow creature that can hide in the mist. He orders Dagula to go and she rushes in with that insane speed, cuts a creature's half neck clean off, and the group is in awe like, the gray mist cleared. Gu Chen really doesn't need us, we'd be dead men without him. But then they realize the boss hasn't lost any HP because the creature is healing, and that's when the system shows damage transfer. As long as there are fallen guards nearby, the boss can transfer 100% of all damage he receives to a random guard, and after that guard's HP hits 0, it gets resurrected with full health after 3 seconds unless you wipe all of them simultaneously, and Wu Zi is screaming that this is impossible with the boss having 9000 HP and such an abnormal ability. But Gu Chen just launches a bare-handed attack that almost kills one of the soldier monsters and explains they just need to clear the resurrected guards in time so the boss has no scapegoat and keeps losing HP, while the group is wandering around weakened by the poison and wondering how. Gu Chen is completely unaffected. He casually pulls out mist grass that he bought in advance from the trading market because of course the regression king already knew what was coming, tosses it to them and tells them to hurry and consume it because he can't handle all of this alone and needs them to contribute or the overall evaluation won't live up to expectations. And after they all swallow it, Yuan says he feels his energy returned. So Gu Chen hands out F-grade light crystals without explaining why, telling them not to ask questions and just do what he says later, and the party finally gets their act together shouting they'll handle the guards and make a contribution so they don't miss out on experience, leaving Gu Chen to go to Dagula who's been fighting the boss this whole time to buy them space, and she's exhausted but he tells her, that's enough, go back and rest. Because she's almost drained the boss and without the ash mist to hide in she can take a break for 1 round while he handles the next fight with his arm turning red and power spreading like fire. He launches with all his might shouting, don't be a burden. And the attack chips the boss's HP while the party goes full Dark Souls gank squad on the fallen guards. Yuan screaming, still thinking of coming back to life? Go to hell. And Wu Zi yelling, still want to transfer? In your dreams. And the girls joining in with, we won't give you any chance. Each elimination giving plus 75 experience, and without those scapegoats they finally drain the boss's HP to the end, but everyone knows he still has one last trick. The boss vanishes and teleports right behind Gu Chen with pitch black darkness invasion. That finishing move that teleports short distance, releases black mist to inflict stiffness for 1 second, and ignores 70% of defense. And Wu Zi screams that this move wiped out many elite teams in the past. The stiffness effect hits, but Gu Chen just smirks because thanks to the sacrifices of those elite members he knows the weak point, and he shouts, light crystal, throw it to me, and the party hurls all the crystals at the boss who starts screaming in pain and catching fire because that black mist permeates everything and is hard to block, but its only weakness is the light crystal. And Gu Chen launches with his red hand power thinking, fortunately this crystal has little value and no one noticed its benefit. But the boss blocks with dust and tries to flee because the cooldown for Ash Mist Curse has ended and he's trying to hide in the mist and summon more guards even on the brink of death. Gu Chen cancels Crimson Feast and says, unfortunately my summon monster has also had plenty of rest, and gives Dagula the order to finish him off, and she flies at the speed of sound, creates a hole right through the boss's center, takes his heart for a critical hit that empties 6000 plus damage, and the deacon can't even scream before he explodes right in front of everyone. System showing plus 555 experience and loot drops including Black Deacon Emblem, Black Deacon Robe, and the clear reward for Temple Ruins Nightmare difficulty giving a limited treasure chest and plus 500 professional experience. The party goes nuts celebrating while Gu Chen calmly handles the split, gear and treasure chest are his. He takes half the high-quality crystals and the rest split the remainder equally, and Ching Ching is like, fair? It's beyond fair. And everyone agrees those crystals are worth several beginner dungeons, but Gu Chen lays down the law. Funds ready for next team formation, and absolutely no one leaks that he has a human form summon, or he won't take them to hell level next time, and the whole party is swearing they won't utter a single word because they need him to carry them again. They vanish from the dungeon and outside there's a crowd waiting while some other rookie team led by Brother Hui comes out bragging about clearing a hard dungeon in 3 hours and breaking a record, But nobody cares because everyone's watching the green gate. And the system broadcasts that Gu Chen's team broke the all-time record for Temple Ruins Nightmare in 2 hours 35 minutes 13 seconds with leader Gu Chen the Summoner and members Lin Yuan, Lin Qingqing, Su Ran, and Wu Zi, and the crowd loses it because clearing Nightmare in 2.5 hours is supposedly impossible for rookies, and even the Ministry of Education gets involved thinking it was a training accident turned model example. The school director immediately tries to give all the credit to Wu Zi because he can't accept that a mere summoner carried the run, grabbing Wu Zi's hand and praising his leadership while Wu Zi is panicking trying to explain that Gu Chen was the real leader, and Lin Yuan confirms it, but the director accuses them of being paid off to surrender the honor, and Wu Zi is internally screaming, "You old fool! Stop talking lest he refuses to take me along next time," and teacher Jiang tries to intervene, but Gu Chen just shuts it down, saying an honor at the school level without material reward is hollow, and he doesn't care how the director views him, which makes the director explode, calling him insolent and threatening punishment. But then the education department higher-ups literally tell the director he's unfit for his position and start grilling him about the teleportation scrolls. And when they realize the team cleared the stage instead of using the scrolls, they're absolutely floored because less than 3 hours for a nightmare hidden dungeon is insane. Deputy Liang Linfei from the ministry finally has the insight to recognize Gu Chen's the real deal, and Gu Chen thinks, it seems there is someone here with the insight to recognize talent, and notes that this man is high level and realized his stats are strongest among them in a single glance. And Liang explains the ministry will grant rewards and wants to ask about the details. But Gu Chen just tells his party, "What are you all looking at me for? Didn't we agree on what to say inside? Just answer what you're asked," and Liang thinks the student is no simple opponent. Then comes the lore drop about dungeons being resource areas that can become fallen zones if not cleared in time, like what happened beyond Jinyuan Pass in the Xinxia Kingdom, which is now a fallen zone no one dares to tread because they failed to annihilate monsters from the beginning, and if not for the Jinyuan army led by military commander Gu Qingfeng, the entire kingdom would have fallen. And since Gu Chen's team cleared this hidden dungeon, they've not only averted danger but discovered a new resource area, so the ministry is granting each of them 10,000 gold coins plus an honorary title, and the party is shocked like, "Unbelievable, haven't we become rich?" While Wu Zi points out the honor might give bonus credits in future exams. Liang asks how a rookie team led by a summoner learned of this dungeon and cleared it. And Gu Chen says as a professional he's naturally sensitive to surrounding dungeons and noticed spiritual energy fluctuations long ago, and they cleared it through solidarity and joined efforts. And Liang is shocked at the spiritual energy sensing talent but chalks it up to summoners being more sensitive after forming pacts with summoned beasts, though he thinks this boy is hiding something but lets it slide. Because he's just a kid, and after Gu Chen answers the procedural questions he asks to be excused, but Liang stops him and drops the real hook. There are dungeons that require raids, they need new students because of level requirements, and the reward isn't just gold coins but a direct recommendation to enroll in the Capital Academy, the only one in Linqing City. Gu Chen's eyes go wide because Capital Academy means he'll be able to see his dear brother, and he says he'll think about it carefully, but internally he's already hyped to head back and unseal his second summoned beast because he can't wait to get stronger and head to the capital.